Our next speaker invites us into the step of the world of imagination with a thought-provoking question: if trees could talk, what stories would they tell? This brings me to introduce to all of you our next speaker, Mr. Uday Krishna Peddireddi. Mr. Uday established the non-profit Vata Foundation, an environmental group committed to preserving India's urban greenery. Since its establishment in 2015, the foundation has made major contributions to the Tipeshwar Wildlife Sanctuary and successfully transplanted over 2,000 trees and fostered 50,000 more throughout India. Widely acclaimed of its impactful tree rehabilitation program, Vata Foundation continues to lead initiatives that combat the loss of urban trees and promote ecological sustainability. Uday Krishna Peddireddi, recognized as the Tree Man of India, was honored as the best environmentalist of 2022 for his exceptional efforts in environmental conservation. We will keep continuing that applause while I call upon our next speaker, Mr. Uday Krishna Peddireddi.
So if trees can talk, what stories would they share? This was a question that I came across about a couple of years ago, and decided to venture further to find out what stories our trees tell across India. So I started a quest called the Big Tree Quest. This is basically to document India's greatest trees, about 150 trees that have stories behind them. And wanted to start off by first visiting the oldest and the biggest trees of every state. And while Googling these trees, I came across some other stories, very, very interesting stories, and that's what I'm going to share over here with you. Since this is Hyderabad, since we are in Telangana, I'm going to share four tree stories from Telangana, which probably some of you might be aware of, some of you might not be aware of. The other trees in Hyderabad, we have a tree in the Golf Association, Golf Club. That's a tree that housed robbers who would go into the Golconda Fort and steal in the night and then come back and hide in this tree. There was a room in the tree which could house about 20 people. There's one other tree, it's called the Damaragita tamarind tree. It's a healing tree, about 60 kilometers from Hyderabad. And I would actually ask all of you to take some time out to visit these trees. That tree basically had a hollow in which you had any kid that was sick would go through and recover. And that was the story behind that tree. Now this curiosity of mine started building up further. And I started putting all the tree locations on a map to see what we are going to end up with. So this is one more tree of Telangana. This is Telangana's largest tree. This is the Pillala Mari in Mahbub Nagar. So these trees are all over the place. The point is we don't get to see them, or we are not aware of them. And my thing about Big Tree Quest is to bring all these onto a platform, onto my website, onto a map, and where people can go and visit these trees. But this quest for trees, the thing about trees started very early in my life. As a child, I used to go into the jungle near my mom's village, spend time in the jungle. Unknowingly, I was getting attached to nature, very close. Trees, lakes, animals, and a little interest in photography later moved into wildlife photography. But all of these activities I didn't know had a link, which probably down my life, they're going to bring everything together and create something called my foundation, the Vata Foundation. Vata basically means a family of fig trees. This is how it's written in the Indus script. Vata Foundation for me is a combination of all of my passions, for trees, for wildlife, for jungles, for lakes, and also for my travel. I'll explain how all this is linked together. So Vata Foundation was formed with the intention of saving trees in the urban space, which are a victim of development. And anything that the government is permitted to cut down for flyovers, for underpasses, whichever tree that government is cutting down, we would go save that tree for free of cost by translocating it. And this is a purely volunteer-based foundation where people from all walks of life come. We don't have any members or employees. It's just a volunteer-based, non-funded foundation. Started off with 10 trees in 2010, which was basically coincidental. That will be the ripple. I was building a small bridge, and about 10 to 16 trees were going in the footfall. And the government had given me permission to cut those trees. So I said, instead of cutting the trees, why not move them? And I found a lane close by with not a single tree. And I asked the people living in the lane, can I move these trees here? And they looked at me like, what's wrong with this guy? So I said, no, I'll bring them at my cost. You just have to water it. So they were fine, as long as they don't have to spend for it. So out of 16 trees, 13 survived. And that was the beginning of Vata Foundation's journey in saving trees in the urban space by translocating. We have started with 16 trees, and the resonate basically is now we have done more than 2,000 trees, all free of cost. So these are all free of cost for the government, because I thought free of cost government is going to allow me to save trees. Sometimes it really didn't happen that way. But anyway, 2,000 plus trees free of cost for the government. This led to further developments. So today we get calls from across so far 8 states in India, where people call me if a tree falls down, or if a tree is getting cut down for any developmental work, or even if a tree is breaking the compound wall. So I spend time trying to teach them that, if a compound wall is getting affected by a tree, you can always replace your compound wall, but keep the tree. So it's a more educative initiative. And, so this is one tree I'll talk about. This is from Goa. This tree had fallen down during COVID time. And it was a very popular tree amongst the expats over there. They used to hold a lot of dance sessions under this tree. And they googled up and found my number, and they wanted to come save this tree. It took about 3 days time. Without a crane, we had to put this tree. It was about 100-ton big tree. And we managed to do it. And of course, ended up with COVID after this tree, but that was okay. This is one more very interesting story that I wanted to share today. This is a government school in Nagar Karnool, and what you see here is the entire school watching us revive one of their favorite trees. That was a jungly jalebi tree, which had fallen down in a summer storm. The principal of the school held on to this tree for about 2 days. The manager wanted to cut it down, but the principal said, no, let's see what will happen, and we'll do something about it. And then she read one of my stories in the papers, and my number was published, and she called and said, that is the only useful tree we have in this entire school, can you please save it for us? The tree was still green. So I said, yes ma'am, we'll do it. No idea how, so we just said we'll do it, and 8 of us went to the school. I had only one request. I told the principal, please can we do it when the entire school is watching? There's no better class, for people to see us do the work. So the entire school, you can see all the girls sitting and watching us. It took us about 8 hours. We had no crane again in this place. We put the tree back up, and this was July 28th, 2019. The principal celebrates that day by tying a rakhi to the tree every year. Furthermore, the principal now, she herself has translocated 2 trees in her house. So I thought that was something that I really didn't expect out of this. But one of the very nice stories that we all get inspired with. Vata Foundation also is into adopting jungles. So we were fortunate enough to adopt a wildlife sanctuary called Tipeshwar in Maharashtra. And for 10 years we had worked in this jungle, trying to make this very dead, dry, deciduous jungle into a tiger heaven, a place where the animals could survive. And our work basically was to complement what the department was already doing, and to find ways to have the local community involved into this. Tipeshwar was not known, and it was an opportunity for Vata Foundation to show that even a dead jungle can become a tiger heaven. And for me as an entrepreneur, it was an opportunity for me to set up something that would change this place forever. So I ended up setting up a small resort also right beside it. It was just a initiative where I thought, for Hyderabad we don't have many jungles around. This will be a good place to go. Also to showcase the work that Vata Foundation has been doing in this jungle. So we've done things like we've donated water tankers, planted saplings, around 3,500 biodiverse saplings. It took us 2 years to clean the entire jungle of its plastic, and today the staff themselves pick up, even if they see a small wrapper, they just pick it up. We've also had one big opportunity to create the water body. This is a lake inside the jungle, and Tipeshwar being a very dry, deciduous jungle where the summers are very, very harsh, water bodies like this, they form the lifeline. So this particular water body is now a home to a tigress with cubs in this season. Tipeshwar has also taught me a lot of things that I never knew before I went to jungle. I was into wildlife photography, but we had these rules, like we set guidelines that if a tiger needs so much space, a male tiger, a female tiger needs so much space, this animal is this, it's all defined. But what I was seeing in the jungle is very different. I'll just share 2 examples. We had one lake in the middle of the jungle, and there was a tigress by the lake. That was her home. There was one tigress besides my resort. Now both of them had cubs. They had given litter to 3 or 4 cubs. And the one near the lake, she would leave her cubs for 2 days and go around for hunting. And she would come back, and in the meantime, if the cubs were sighted by the tourists, it was all chaos. But the cubs got used to it. They got used to the vehicles, they got used to safari cars, photographers taking pictures. The other tigress near the resort was very shy and very, very protective. Even to cross the road, she would wait, see the cubs cross the road, look around. If somebody was there, she would growl at them and then walk off. Now these 2 sets of cubs grow up to be adult tigers, and we expect them to fit into the definition of a tiger, which never happens. So this was a learning in Tipeshwar. The other thing also I learned in Tipeshwar, I would want to share here is, we have these water bodies, being a dry district jungle, these are solar power water bodies. And the department regularly would create these every year, more solar powered water bodies. This is the solar power water body. But what I learned is, the prey base, the deer, the wild boar, they would go to only a certain type of water bodies. And the tiger would want some certain other type of water bodies. So that was a learning for us, which normally as a photographer I wouldn't have learned. But having spent time in the jungle, being close to the nature, I got to understand things better and create more water bodies which were useful for the animals. Some of the pictures from the jungle. Okay. So this was a resort I set up in Tipeshwar. Tipeshwar is in Yavatmal district. It is a place where it was known to be a farmers' suicide capital of India, and no employment opportunities. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to create employment. And today, my resort called Foxtail Eco Retreat was the beginning point for that entire area, where now 1,500 families have been employed in and around the jungle. So for a jungle which had just 2 passing tigers, they have 8 resident tigers in 148 square kilometers, which is very, very small in tiger terms. And with the cubs included, about 23 tigers in this jungle, which now is the highest density in India. In my resort, I did a small experiment. This is a small water body I created in the resort. And this was one of my biggest learning experiences also. So I'll share one very small story. this water would get filled in during summer, monsoons, and by summer it would dry up. And upstream fish would come and come settle into this pond. It was less than half an acre. One season the fish didn't turn up, and I was afraid where the mosquitoes would come and the guests might get affected. And I introduced about 500 small fish from the local market. In the 500 fish, a few marl, a variety that's very popular in Telangana, they also showed up. Now this marl is very, very aggressive. They ended up eating all the other fish, other small fish. Then later the natural biodiversity, the upstream fish had come down, even they were eaten up. And just 10 marl in this pond changed the entire bird life around this small pond. Earlier I had kingfishers, I had water hens, I had fishing, all kinds of birds would come to feed on the fish. That year nothing, no kingfishers, no water hens, because the marl in the water did the change. So every little tweak we do to nature has a very big impact, and we need to understand, and that was my learning over there. And all these learnings have actually helped me in developing a skill like to convert dead areas into self-sustaining eco centers. This is a few pictures of my resort. Okay. So last year I exited Tipeshwar after successfully completing my work over there. And I took a break. In the break is when I started the Big Tree Quest. The Big Tree Quest is a drive across India where I'm visiting about 140 trees. Each one has its own story. The stories I mentioned were a very few of them, and you had stories like, you have trees which are called Passport Baba trees. There is a visa tree. There is a 100 crore tree. There is a tree that's been chained up. So these all got my curiosity. I said, let me go find out what these trees are. And it's been very interesting so far. So far I've covered about 10 states, 70 trees, and 2 union territories, and about 15,000 kilometers. And I'm at halfway mark. I have another 40,000 kilometers, 70 trees, and the number keeps going up because as I travel, I'm finding more trees. The intention of Big Tree Quest is basically I would want to do a book and then document whatever trees. But apart from that, there will be an online live map where people can go and click on these trees. Most of them could be in your neighborhood. You wouldn't even know about these trees. So that is the intention of the Big Tree Quest. So these are the 3 stories I wanted to share. We started off as very small. My journey with Vata Foundation started with just 16 trees as an experiment. And today with over 2,000 trees and about 500 volunteers spread across 8 states, we are probably the first thought that people do get. I get calls from all these places where people want to save trees. And I never thought that I would be able to do something like this, where I'll get a call from somebody sitting in Himachal Pradesh that they want to save the tree over there. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is one tree in Maharashtra. This is one of the biggest trees I've seen. It's about 3 acres. And these are the kind of trees that I'll be documenting and also will be available on my website. So down the line, when you want to see, you'll be able to see all these trees, get the information also on the trees. This is one tree in Sangameshwar in Ratnagiri district. But this is another sad story because this tree actually houses, these are all the birds on the tree, about 1,500 to 2,000 birds sitting on this tree. This tree was right in the middle of a flyover project and it was being cut down. So this tree probably won't be around to see later on when the work is done. Apart from India, I'm also covering trees across the globe. And these are the trees from outside. This tree is from Sri Lanka. It is a direct descendant of the Bodhi tree, the Mahabodhi. And this tree is the world's oldest documented tree. It's about 2,330-year-old tree, and still surviving. The one in the middle is from Fiji. It's one of the oldest trees in Fiji, and that's from Georgia. So that's been my journey. It started off with a small experiment on 16 trees, ended up to where I am today, and will be part of the Vata story. Thank you.